Today is Monday, March 20th, 2017, and today we're going to talk about Tomi Lahren and her suspension from The Blaze. Now, if you don't know who she is, I'll give you a brief overview. Now, she has a very popular show on the Blaze Network TV, which is something that Glenn Beck is behind. If you know Glenn Beck, he used to be on Fox News. He's kind of controversial himself, but I won't get into Mr. Glenn Beck right now. We're talking about Miss Tomi. Now, her show was extremely popular, especially on social media. It's probably more popular on social media than it is on the Blaze itself, which I'll get to a little bit later. But she's very popular. However, people behind the scenes at the Blaze were rumored to have some points of contention. It was some arguments going on. People didn't really like her style. They said that her style was sometimes too abrasive and too angry. And I think her comment that she made on The View recently may have just driven it over the top. It may have been the final nail in the coffin. She has not been fired as of yet, but her being suspended may be a precursor to her being fired. Now, before we get into what I think about it, before we get into my comparison of another guy that had to leave or got suspended or something like that from another media network conglomeration, before we get into all of that, what I want to do right now is show you this clip from The View that basically wound her up where she is right now today. So without further ado, go ahead and roll it.
You call yourself a conservative Republican and a constitutional conservative, but you also consider yourself pro-choice, which is interesting to me because 68% of conservative Republicans think that abortion should be illegal across the board.
No, I'm pro-choice, and here's why. I am a constitutional, someone that loves the Constitution. I am someone that's for limited government, and so I can't sit here and be a hypocrite and say I'm for limited government, but I think that the government should decide what women do with their bodies. I can sit here and say that as a Republican, and I can say, you know what, I'm for limited government, so stay out of my guns. And you can stay out of my body as well. So I think it's...
You need to go out and speak to women about that.
I do every day.
Republican women.
I do every day.
Okay.
And, I get a lot of attacks from conservative women as well.
Yeah.
I think it's
unusual.
Equal hate from all sides for me.
You don't have any...
Okay, so you see what's going on there. She's basically like, I like my guns, and I also like my ability to be pro-choice. Stay out of my guns, stay out of my body. Now, I like the whole stay out of my guns argument. I'm with you 100%. I'm pro-Second Amendment all day. Hashtag 2A. I'm with you 100%. The government shouldn't be involved with me being able to have a gun and protect myself. I'm with you 100%. However, I'm totally against the abortion part. I think life begins at conception. I don't think that aborting a baby is something that should be something that's, trivial as just changing your clothes. You're talking about human life. Human life should not be exterminated like that with such callous disregard. If you're talking about a medical situation where the mother may die or something like that, that's a whole different story. That's a whole different ball of wax. But the reality is the majority of the time, over 95% of the time, it's because it's an inconvenience. It's because it's not really wanted. That's what's going on. Rape and incest, that accounts for less than 1% of abortion reasons. That is the truth. That is the reality of it. So I'm not for abortion in any way, form, or fashion. So I want that to be crystal clear. I want that to be sparkling. I want it to be clear as the sky is blue on a beautiful summer day. So let's just let that be known. However, I don't think that Tomi should have been suspended and or fired or pushed out because of that remark or her style. Because the reality is this whole thing with the remark, that is not the sole reason why she has been suspended and or maybe pushed out pretty soon here. People that she worked with didn't like her style. They didn't like the so-called angry style. They didn't like her being so-called abrasive. Even though I really don't see that, I see her as being passionate, and her being a woman, I think kind of comes off the wrong way because women are mostly seen not in that way. They're seen mostly kind of dainty and polite and feminine, even though she is. That's what kind of confuses me about the whole situation because she's still dainty, polite, and feminine, but has an edge to her, which gets a point across and makes the whole thing work. Without that edge, her show would not be as popular as it is. Now, some of you may have seen me on the show before. I was on the show last year in August. So you may be thinking, oh, this guy is on the show. He likes her because he was on there. He's being biased. And I can understand why you would think that, but I'm just being 100% honest. That's how I am on all my videos. I just think that she shouldn't have been pushed out because of that. Now, on the other end, I'll talk about the people that were, behind the scenes at the Blaze that had a problem with her. I don't understand what they're thinking about, really. Why would they have a problem with her? I mean, what other show on the Blaze is doing any kind of numbers at all? The Blaze wouldn't be anything as a network without her. She is the flagship show. Really, everybody that works there should be hitching up their wagons to Tomi because they know that's their bread and butter. Without Tomi, what do you have? Who watches The Blaze really? Nobody. The reality is Tomi probably gets more views on Facebook than The Blaze does as a TV station, period. All the shows combined. So I don't understand why they can't just hitch their wagons to Tomi's train and just ride it on out. Help her. Just basically become the Tomi News Network rather than trying to become or stay as The Blaze. You see, you got to go where your fortunes lie. That's just my humble opinion about it. If I was an employee over there, I'd be trying to support her 100% because I know that's the golden goose. But I do understand some may have their moral differences, but I don't understand what those could possibly be. Well, because of her style is too much for you. And the comment about abortion, I mean, that's silly. And, you know, I liken this to one more person that got pushed out or may have quit or suspended or whatever you want to call it. And that is Colin Moriarty of Kinda Funny Games. Now, if you don't know who he is, I'll give you a brief overview. Now, Colin is a guy that worked with a company called Kinda Funny, and they also had another like subsidiary or like a branch off of that called Kinda Funny Games. It was Colin Moriarty and Greg Miller who left IGN. I think it might have been 2 or 3 years ago. It might have been 2015 or 14. Now, IGN is the biggest gaming website in the whole world, and they were like top guys over there. And they got a big following behind them when they were over there. So they decided to branch out and start their own thing called Kinda Funny. They were in a spare bedroom like I am right now. They were in the spare bedroom for about a year, maybe more, a year and a half. Then they decided to get their own studio. They got a Patreon, make a lot of money. These guys have like 200,000 subscribers on each of their channels. They have 2 channels, Kinda Funny and Kinda Funny Games. And their Patreons make 50 grand a month. Patreon is where you get donations from people, you know, on a monthly basis to help your operation run, and as part of your income. I have a Patreon as well, and I will put that in the box below, but I digress. My point here is that they had a lot of money, had a big following, and things just started to unravel when they got their new studio. And, you know, you had more money involved, more investors involved, more ads, you know, more people that had their hands in the pot, in my humble opinion, and also more scrutiny. So Colin makes a joke. Imagine that. Kinda Funny, a guy from Kinda Funny making a joke. He said, peace and quiet, a day without a woman. That was the joke that he made on Twitter. That was it, and that was all. There was no more. It was all kind of hit pieces that came out, I think, from Polygon. They originally called it sexist and racist. Crazy, ridiculous hit pieces. And then you had Greg Miller, who left IGN with Colin Moriarty. Remember, like I told you earlier, they left and started Kinda Funny Games. He wrote this whole big wall of text talking about how it was wrong. We don't want fans like that. We're not this, we're not that. Now, to Greg Miller's credit, Colin Moriarty helped edit that apology, but I could pretty much tell by the way Colin reacted by immediately resigning as soon as that apology came out, that as soon as Greg Miller approached him with it, he was like, you know what? I'm out. It probably was a final straw, similar to what's going on with Tomi. As far as a lot of things happening behind the scenes, right? It was a build up to the exit. Now on Tomi's end, I don't think it was as personal as it appears to be with Kinda Funny Games, because Kinda Funny, they built their company together. Greg Miller, Colin Moriarty, they were the 2 top guys. They brought on some other guys, Tim, Nick, and Kevin. I'll put all this in the box below, but basically they were like the head honchos of the company. Without Colin, there can be no Kinda Funny Games, similar to how without Tomi, there can be no The Blaze, because what else do you have on The Blaze that's going to draw an audience? The audience came for Kinda Funny because of the synergy between Colin Moriarty and Greg Miller. Now that Colin is gone, you're not going to have that anymore. And my thing is the same thing that I said with people that worked at The Blaze. The employees that work there should all respect the fact that these 2 people, Colin and Greg, are going to be your breadwinners. They're going to be your bread and butter. Without one of them, it ain't going to work. Without both of them, you definitely ain't going to work. You have no more company. You guys can't survive on your own because the company was surrounded. It was founded based upon them having a big audience and being able to maintain it and grow it. That's pretty much what it is. So you had a guy named Tim who was brought on, I think, by Colin Moriarty to basically be a behind the scenes guy who became on air talent. He said something on Twitter talking about if anybody liked Colin Moriarty's joke, we don't want those kind of fans. They threw him under the bus. And why? I don't understand. If you got your lead guy who's bringing in a big audience, who's able to make you have a living and provide you with a job, why would you go against that? It's the same thing going on with the Blaze. The reason why Colin Moriarty left and or was pushed out, resigned or whatever is the same reason why Tomi Lahren is now in the same situation, because of, infighting and PC people reacting inappropriately. And I don't expect that from the right, which is where Tomi is. These guys are kind of funny. They're in San Francisco, the belly of the liberal beast. Colin is not really a liberal nor a conservative, but he's more of a center-right kind of guy. He did not vote for Trump. He voted for Gary Johnson. He's more of a centrist. He's not really conservative like myself. He pretty much has similar views like Tomi. He does not believe in being anti-abortion. He's like not really a conservative. But just because of that one joke that could be on the right, it's the same thing that Tomi did by saying that she's pro-choice. And it's really a shame. So that's pretty much all I got to say about it. I say shout out to Tomi and Colin both for standing up for what they believe in. I think that if you're going to be an advocate of free speech, if you're going to be somebody that calls yourself a conservative, you should appreciate what they did. Just standing up to the left, standing up to PC nature. And in Tomi's case, it wasn't even the left. It was our own people. And I think that if you're on the right, you shouldn't be just throwing her away because you don't agree with one of her stances. That's why I don't like always calling myself a conservative, because I'm not really into the tribalism. And with tribalism, you must adhere to some of the core tenets. You can't go off the reservation. You can't say certain things. You can't say that Israel is not perfect. I don't believe Israel is perfect. They have problems with their land annexation and other issues, but I digress. My whole point is that I am not 100% locked up with every conservative principle, nor should anyone be. I think the average person is not. The average person pretty much lies in the center and is kind of mostly on the side of what conservatism is, the same thing as a liberal. You pretty much kind of 90% or a little bit less in line with what they think as far as their core tenets are concerned. But that's pretty much all I got to say. What do you think about Tomi Lahren being, I don't want to say fired, but she's been suspended? What do you think about that? Do you think it was the correct thing to do because of her stance about being pro-choice, and or any other things happened behind the scenes about her being angry and whatnot during her show? Was that a correct thing to do? Or do you think it was a PC nature rearing its ugly head in the conservative side of things? The same kind of way that it reared its ugly head on the liberal side of things when you're talking about Kind of Funny Games, San Francisco guys talking about video games and politics and stuff like that. And what about Colin Moriarty? Have you been following that situation? What do you think about him? Do you think that he was right to leave them pretty much at the height of their company, making a lot of money, basically being rich, to go do his own thing on YouTube, talking about politics and stuff like that, to pretty much abandon those guys because of how they abandoned him? Do you think there's much more to the story than what has been revealed to the mainstream media on both sides of the coin? Whatever your comments are, let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.